Great. It's nice to be here. It's fun to follow Automatic. I've actually gotten to know Lori quite well over the last few months. Articulate is also a fully distributed team. We are 120 people, so we're large. I think we may be the second largest in the world, but I'd love, if there's any bigger companies, I'd love to know about them. And Lori and I also know Tony Schneider, who was CEO at Automatic. And so I've shared lots of stories about hiring and about onboarding folks in a distributed environment. But a little bit about Articulate. We're a leader in the e-learning community, so we create software that helps people create courses and training that then they publish online. We have the largest community of e-learning professionals on the web. I'm the COO. All my handles are at Frazier Miller. So a little bit more about Articulate. As I said, we're 120 people. We hired half of our company this last year, over the last 12 to 18 months. So we've hired 60 people in the last year, and so it's posed a bunch of challenges for us. And we're happy. There's a number of things we're doing well. The distributed model works very well for us, so I wanted to share a few points about this. On Glassdoor, we get a 4.8 out of 5 reviews. Out of 21 reviews, we've got 100% approval of our CEO. There's also a really nice tool that we're using, I would recommend, I don't think it's been brought up today, called Tiny Pulse. And there's a couple tools like this. It's a really good way to get a sense from folks in the company of how you're doing as a company. And you can ask a bunch of questions, and a question comes out every couple weeks. And so periodically it asks on a scale of 1 to 10 how happy you are at work. And we've always scored very well on that. But not all has gone easily in terms of hiring and onboarding folks. And one of the observations I would make, I worked for many years at Yahoo before I came to Articulate. And there's always been this kind of myth versus reality of working from home. When I was at Yahoo, and this was pre-Marissa Mayer's time, she sort of infamously kind of did away with their work from home policy. But I was there during a time where we did have a kind of a work from home policy, and there was sort of this myth that when people were working from home, they were at the beach sipping martinis on their cell phone. The reality, as many of us know, of working from home is that you've got if your office is at all like mine, it's incredibly messy. It's the one area that we don't get to clean because it's up to me to do it. And you either have a cat or a pet that's disturbing you. In my case, I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old who want to come play with me after school. So the reality is not just in the workspace, but also how do you motivate yourself? How do you manage your day at work? Many sort of logistics about working from home is actually quite challenging. And so one of the big issues for us is how do we find the right people that can actually succeed, not just succeed, but really thrive in a work from home environment. And keep in mind that much as we think about recruiting talent into these distributed teams, much of the workforce is coming from a big company, whether it's Yahoo or other types of large companies where that's the environment that they've been used to. So I'm going to just come back to that slide in a second. But one of the key things that we've found is to find people with the right psychographics. That's just a fancy name for people with the right personality and approach to working from home. And so there's a few things that we found to be really key for that. One is this idea of being self-motivated and self-directed and not needing to be sort of told what to do. And here's an example of an entrepreneur, right, is hanging up a sign for fresh eggs. We have found that entrepreneurs that have formerly worked on their own, whether they're even freelancers, are really great profile and background to work in a distributed environment because they've had to solve their own problems. They've had to be out on their own. We actually will go out on places like Odesk and Elance to find people who have been working in those environments because they've shown a lot of self-motivation, discipline to be able to do that. So it's really key that you are screening for and finding people with that internal drive. Another key thing that we found sort of the hard way is letting people actually come and find us, as opposed to maybe more traditional mechanisms going out and finding other folks. When I first came on to Articulate, I used sort of the traditional methods of going out, tapping my network, hey, there's this great company, let me tell you more about it. And what I found was there's a lot of people who get excited about the myth of working from home, but unless they're really convinced that it's the right fit for them or they've done it before on their own, you can get a lot of false positives. That is, you can get people who are sitting at a Yahoo and is like, wow, that sounds great, I want to work on the beach. And then you hire them, you bring them on board, and their kids are on them, their wife's asking them or husband or their spouse is asking them to go do errands during the middle of the day. It's hard, it's challenging for folks. So we found that letting candidates who are really convinced find you. So a few of the tools we found to be really helpful. Flex Jobs is a great place to post resumes. We found a lot of success, and there's a lot of an ecosystem there of people who are looking for that type of work. We also, there's a podcast called Wide Teams, and that's a great place to get some exposure, to get your name out there. And there's a lot of people who are interested in this field that are listening to that podcast. So that's a little bit about our hiring. So now you got them on board. As I mentioned, we brought on kind of 60 people over the last year. One of the things that we found super critical sort of day one is to put that person on their team. And we're a big believer in agile processes on the development side. And we've gone so far as to adapt a lot of those mechanisms and tactics even on the business side. So we'll have sprint meetings on the marketing team and on our sales team where we're working towards specific goals. And one of the things we found is that if we let people sort of out on their own without sort of plugging them into a team day one, they can sort of get off kilter and they cannot feel connected into the team. So the daily stand-up has been a really key element. It started in our engineering side, and then on the business side, we have found it to be a lot more challenging because we don't have a natural sort of team of folks that are working on code and able to talk about that. On the business side, within our sales or finance or other areas, it can be a lot harder to find that sense of team, which is why we have established more of an agile process around marketing. But we use Google Hangouts quite a bit to do that, and that's our daily stand-up. So the virtual teams are very key. Don't worry about sort of this process flow, but one of the things that we found we weren't doing well when we pulled our new hires is the onboarding process. So we had lots of things falling between the cracks. We need to provision someone a computer, and it's up to the hiring manager, who's not always the same hiring manager, to send a note to IT to get the computer provisioned. And when that didn't happen, then the person's computer doesn't show up, and we'd find that we weren't coordinating well across the team. So we got quite specific and laid out a bunch of workflow for onboarding so that notifications get triggered automatically. This is a chart that's created in Lucidchart, and we now document our processes. It sounds very kind of corporate-y, but it's been really helpful as a way to make sure that every detail gets answered. As mentioned before, face-to-face is really critical. So when the person gets hired, we actually schedule a meetup to go out and visit at least part of their team. And we found that that's a really key way to get a person started off on the right foot. So every project that we have an inception for it, and many of those inceptions are done face-to-face. Here's a couple pictures from that. This is from our corporate retreat, and we have, just in the last couple of years, we have invested in having a corporate retreat where everyone is able to get together. The first year that we had this, we literally had, because we had been operating for 6 or 7 years without any meetups. I'm not sure how the company managed to do that, but when we finally had that meetup, people were literally crying when they met these people that had been working with in a virtual environment for 5 years in many cases, and it's now one of the things that people most look forward to at Articulate. So a couple of things that I would just wrap up with, saying there's still a work in progress. The business side is more challenging, I think, from an onboarding standpoint, and we continue to work on ways that we can make sure that that daily involvement is really there and present from the beginning. We have this funny notion we talked about, apple pie as a service. So we have this desire when someone does something well, you really want to reach out to them and offer something great and nice. Someone mentioned sort of ordering a pizza for someone. So instead of software as a service, we want an apple pie as a service. Someone can create that where we can send an apple pie to someone who's done a great job. But those little sort of pats on the back that can extend out of the virtual world and the physical world is something that we're always grappling with. The intro, so when someone first comes on, we have a Yammer board, which is sort of our group chat and water cooler. And so we started this tradition, 2 truths and a lie. Some of you may have played this game, but you're to share 3 things about yourself, 2 of which are true and 1 is a lie. So mine were, I was shot by my brother at 20 yards with a shotgun. I helped start a revolution in Nepal, and I have a blog under a secret pen name with 70,000 unique visitors a month. So those are my 2 truths and a lie. You can guess which one's a lie. But things like that really help connect the people together off the bat and is a fun way to get things started. And then as echoed in, I think, many of the talks here, video has been really key for us. We've moved, more and more we're moving away from sort of Skype audio into a sort of Google Hangouts medium because the video really brings the team much more closely together. So those are some things we're still working on. It's a fantastic experiment to be part of, and I'm glad that many of us are sharing some of the same challenges and opportunities together. Thanks very much.